of state of mind I was going to be in. Gosh, I mean, first of all, thank you all for coming. It's good to see a lot of family and friends here from my old church at Yosemite, friends here from my new church at Cross of Grace, all the folks here from Military Pay and other people that have worked with me around the building. I mean, just thanks for coming. I'm honored, and it's really been a privilege to work with all of you all those years. I wouldn't be sitting here having anywhere near the success that I had in my career if it hadn't been for all the people out there like yourself, because that's what it takes to get it done. So, having said that, I think someone maybe mentioned it earlier. Generally, I'm a pretty quiet person unless I have to get noisy, and I do sometimes, but generally I'm kind of low key. So when Bronson came and asked me what I wanted to do for my retirement, I wasn't really sure what to say. There's a part of me said, well, I'll just have a little reception in the conference room and go home, call it a day. And then I got to thinking about it and says, I got way too many people that I got to thank and say something to. So this is as much for all of you as it is for me, because I just wanted a chance to be able to talk with everybody and acknowledge a few folks for all the things that they've done for me. My dad always told me when I was growing up in high school and playing sports, he said, do your talking on the field and you don't have to promote yourself. So I kind of taken that philosophy through life. I don't, when I do things at work, I don't necessarily tell everybody I did it, and I just do it, it gets done, we move on. And so that's just kind of me. So how do you put 44 years into perspective? That's a long time. I'm sitting there thinking, gosh, I don't know how that happened. And then, why did it happen? I got to thinking about that. I said, when I graduated from Penn State back in 1975, I was clueless about life or anything. About the only thing I knew I was going to do, because I did ROTC, I knew I was going in the Army in January, and I knew I was getting married that summer. That's the only two things I knew, and whatever happened after that, who knew? So, as I went through my first assignment, I came out here to school, but then I went to Fort Devens, Massachusetts. Spent some time up there, and my first assignment, I had an office of 13 females. Brand new lieutenant, I didn't know nothing. And 13 females that were a challenge. They didn't play well together. And so I had to figure out how to herd, it was like herding cats, I had an old guy that was in his 50s, Jerry, his name was Jerry. He was my sounding board. He was the only help I had with all those females in that office. And Jerry was a good old guy. He was a Red Sox fan. Of course, I was a diehard Yankee fan. And I was right there in Red Sox country in Massachusetts, within a half an hour drive of Fenway Park. And Jerry and I used to go in and watch the ball games all the time. So it was a lot of fun being there with him. The one good thing that happened at Fort Devens, my son Brian was born up there in Concord, Massachusetts, and I almost didn't make it to the hospital because he was born so fast, I didn't hardly have time to get the gown on. But that was a highlight of my time at Devens. So, first 9 years of my career in the Army was spent doing the things that lieutenants and young captains do, getting the foundation of our trade, and getting around all the different jobs so I could become familiar with what all those functions were and be able to lead people in the future and know something about what that was about. But I don't want to spend a lot of time going through all my assignments. You got my bio, you can read that, but what I do want to talk about is something that happened to me at Bucknell University I was in the ROTC detachment. They're assigned there to teach. I was teaching the senior class, ethics and professionalism, and I was teaching military justice to the senior class. And it wasn't just Bucknell, it was Susquehanna, Lycoming, and, what was the other one? It's escaping me now. Mansfield. So, I was traveling around teaching the senior classes at all those schools. They all belong to our detachment. And one good thing that happened there was my youngest brother, Matt, was in my class at Bloomsburg, and I had the honor to commission him. When he went into the Army, I pinned his bars on and commissioned him that day, and he went on to become a full colonel. He's now retired out in Montana, and he wanted to be here today, but he couldn't make it because he's now working in the Montana National Guard as a civilian, and he couldn't break away from his job. But I was always really proud of the fact that I was able to commission him and to watch him grow and become a really great officer in the Adjutant General Corps. So the one thing though that happened while I was there, and the reason I'm going to tell you this story is because it kind of brings home what we're all about in this room. It brings home why we do what we do, to support our soldiers. And I'm going to have to do a little reading because I want to make sure I don't miss any of the details of this. On December 12th, 1985, 33 years ago on Thursday, Aero Air Flight 1285 crashed over Gander, Newfoundland, carrying 248 soldiers from the 3rd Battalion, 502nd Infantry Regiment of the 101st Airborne at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And there were 8 crew members. There were no survivors. They had departed Cairo, Egypt, stopped in Cologne, West Germany, and had just taken off from a refueling stop at Gander in Newfoundland. They were on their final leg home to Fort Campbell. Now remember, this is December 12th, right before Christmas. They had just completed a peacekeeping mission in the Sinai. They were the 8th rotation to have done so, and they were the first rotation that ironically made it through that mission with no casualties of their own. And they were on their way home. There were 3 contracted flights to bring them home. They weren't all leaving the same day, some of them were weeks apart. Before that first plane left, the single soldiers in the unit got together and decided that the guys on the first plane out would be the married people with families back home. Kind of tells you something about the character of our soldiers. So they all departed, mostly married people on that plane. And of course, they had a terrible tragedy. And when the plane crashed, because it had just fueled up, it burned, it caught fire, burning the flames right away. And there's debris scattered everywhere. The weather was bad, it was snowing, it hindered the recovery effort. And the reason I tell you all this is because at that point in time, I was sitting there all fat, dumb, and happy at Bucknell University, had a good assignment, and I was told I was going to be a casualty assistance officer for one of the soldiers that were on that plane. He was from Shamokin, Pennsylvania, in the heart of coal country in Pennsylvania. And I was called down to Washington, D.C. because there were 248 guys just like me, casualty assistance officers, who were called down there. We met in a big room just like this to meet the CG who gave us a talk and gave us instructions on what was going to happen. This was unlike any other casualty assistance officer assignment that I ever knew, that have that many people at one time all dealing with this. We were told that we were going to meet with the families every day, and then we were going to get a FedEx from the Pentagon every day that would tell us exactly what we were to tell the family. Now that sounds okay, but that ended up being kind of bad. I can explain it. So my duty was to meet with the family every day and to pass on whatever information I was getting from Washington on the recovery effort. And then the things that we normally do as casualty assistance officers is to assist the family with making final arrangements, helping them fill out the forms to get their death gratuity payments, their soldiers group life insurance payments, and all those sort of things. But believe me, this was not like any other casualty. It wasn't just routine, fill out the forms and call it a day. This went on for 2.5 months. They did not, their son was not identified for 2.5 months. So you can imagine the pain and the excruciating meetings that we had on a daily basis. They were confused, they were getting conflicting information, they were watching CNN like most people do, getting all the latest updates that were on CNN, and guess what? They didn't match what was in my FedEx package. Now, I had to try to explain that, and it was very difficult. Finally, towards the end of February, we got word that everyone had been identified, and it was going literally 2 to 3 people a day, all the way till we got to February, and all of a sudden, all the rest were identified. I don't know about you, but that sounded a little strange to me, but it is what it is. And so finally, we could make arrangements for his remains to come back to the mortuary in Shamokin. And the first thing that happened was the funeral director pulled me aside and says, "Do not let the family look inside the casket." Well, I knew what that meant, and so I talked with the father, because the mother was hysterical. She wanted to see her son. I talked with the father, and I think he got it. And they went home that night, and when he came back the next day, he had convinced her to not pursue that any further. So all the medical and personnel records in that unit were burned in the plane. So one of the things I had to do was go around the town to the doctors and dentists that he used to have and try to put medical and dental records together. That's how difficult this identification process had been. And then there were rumors going around as to what the cause was. The official cause ended up being ice on the wings, but there were eyewitnesses who saw the plane on fire before it hit the ground, and there was people who received a call in London from a terrorist jihad group saying and claiming responsibility for bombing the plane, and some investigators on the ground actually found pieces of fuselage that looked like there had been an explosion from inside the plane. For some reason, that all got dismissed by the board that made the final decision, and the final verdict was it was caused by ice on the wings and pilot error. To this day, there's more questions about what happened than there are answers. This week, and every year on this week, Fort Campbell, Kentucky has a commemoration for those soldiers. They haven't forgotten. Every year this happens. There is a memorial down there, which I found out about, and a grove of trees. There was a tree planted for every soldier on that plane, along with a marker of that soldier's name. And so if you ever get a chance to go to Fort Campbell, it's probably worth the trip just to look it up. And you can look up on Google, you can Google this incident on the internet and read about probably more details than what I just gave you. But the reason I wanted to bring this up is, to me, as a youngster, I only had 9 years of service when this happened. this solidified my ethos and my future approach to how I looked at taking care of soldiers. When you have something like that you're personally involved with, and there are many people in this room that probably had similar instances, but when you see how the Army family reacts to this, and how they stick together, and how they take care of the families, and they take care of the survivors, can you imagine the guys who made the decision to not go on that plane? They thought they were doing a good thing. They had to live with that guilt for years. They actually they walked up to one of the surviving spouses at one of the commemorations and said, "Do you still hate us?" And her response was, "I've never hated you." But again, the reason I wanted to tell this story is because it brings home to me what we're all about. Because everyone that's involved in paying soldiers and taking care of soldiers has that same ethos and that same thing that drives you, and that is this sense of duty, this sense of mission and taking care of people. That's why we do what we do here. Everyone in Mill Pay, all you guys out there, every day you come in here, that's why we do it. All right, so let me get off of that real quick. I mean, I don't want the whole thing to just be a downer, and I don't mean to be a downer, but I thought it was a very good story, a very good way to bring home what we're about. And is there anybody in the room from my DDS team other than Mike? Yeah, you gotta stand up, man. Stand up. Alan, stand up. How about, give these guys a round of applause. I gotta tell you, this team, when I came in, when Mr. Pat Shine hired me to come back and be the PM, it took about 3 months. I retired as a lieutenant colonel. It took about 3 months, and they hired me back to be the PM of DBS. And let me tell you, this group of folks made it happen. Before that, and Mike would tell you, he and Laura, they were the brains behind the thing anyhow. There wouldn't be a DDS if it wouldn't have been for Mike Lancaster and Laura Cross. But the thing had kind of floundered a bit because they were trying to develop it out in Cleveland, which is a Navy center, and it's an Army project. So there was just problems with communication, and it just made it harder, just the bureaucracy, but it made it harder to get this thing to work. When Mr. Pat Shine hired me, first day he called me in his office along with the IT director, and he said, and his name was Joe Evans. He said, "Joe, this is Pete Richards. He's my PM. He's going to tell me the status of what's going on. You need to give him all the support. You need to give him whatever he asks for. You need to make it happen. And if you don't, he's going to tell me." Well, okay, so if you knew Mr. Shine, well, that's all I needed. And that's what made the project successful. But you know what? He gave me that, and then he left us alone. He left us do our job. And we did. Those folks out there that were standing up were just part of that team. They did a terrific job at delivering a system that was sorely needed by the Army and had been needed for a long time. And we were able to push it through and make it happen. And thanks to all the folks out there. All right, so that brings me to my current team, my current military pay operations team, who I've been with for the last 9 years. I mean, are my ombudsmen out there? Okay, there's Joe, Mr. Tiger. He's a big Tiger fan. Yeah, and I see Lana Richards, no relation. You guys keep doing up the great work you do. These guys are our customer service team. They're like jack of all trades. They can do anything, and they get more peer awards than anybody in the whole MPO. So keep knocking out those peer awards, and your ratings will still be great every year. And then I gotta tell you the direct reports. You saw Betty. Betty was up here. You got Jeff Heine, Sylvia Bassett, and Chris Johnson. Are you guys out there? stand up. You guys stand up. Stand up. Give these guys a round of applause. Okay, these folks come in here, them and all the people who work with them, they come in here every day without hesitation, and they focus on taking care of soldiers, and they go the extra mile. You know, when the clock's 5 o'clock and it's time to go home, Jeff's still sitting here, Betty's still sitting here. You know, we talked about cutting out overtime. Guess what? I had almost fired people to quit working overtime because they just kept doing it. They weren't even getting paid for it, they kept doing it. And then that would get Bronson and I in trouble. So we had to go make sure people weren't. If you're doing it, don't tell us about it. Go home and do it from home. You know? But these guys are the most dedicated group of individuals that you will find. Wendy, you stand up too. Stand up a minute. Wendy Freeman here. Yeah, she was there doing what Betty's doing, and she's the chief of CPD. She is now down in San Antonio working with the Air Force on a consolidated pay and personnel system. And she has family down there, so it was a really good opportunity for her to go down. She used to live just down the street from me and come over and we'd chat for a while. And Wendy too. Wendy's one of those folks that we have that's this room is just full of professional, dedicated people who are committed to taking care of soldiers. I can't say enough about the support that you've given me. You don't get here 44 years later and have success without folks like that out there. And if I'm missing anybody, I'm sorry, but I'm trying to remember names, and you all know that I think the world of you, and I just can't say enough. Special thanks to Selena for organizing and getting this thing together today for me. You know, most of you know I have MS. That's why I'm sitting in this chair. I can't get out of this dang chair. But it's gradually gets worse. And it's got to the point now where when I go to the restroom, I can't get my pants back on. I can do everything else. I just can't get my pants on. Well, that's a Texas thing. You know, so what's happened is here at work, I got buddies. So, Mike Shanker. Stand up if I call you. Yeah, Mike Shanker. Yeah, okay. Joe O'Gara, one of my ombudsmen, has helped me. Let's see, who else? Well, special thank you to Jeff Hyman. Because I tell you, every day he's the guy. He's my primary. When I go to the restroom, I take my cell phone with me. So when I'm ready, you know, I send him a text and he comes and helps me. Now you laugh about that, but I wouldn't be working if that didn't happen. Honestly, I would not be working if that didn't happen. At home, Sally has to get up. Some days I don't get her on time because he's not up quite early enough. But she has to get up and help me get dressed in the morning. God bless her. I used to go places like church, to the VA, not worry about it. Hey, if I have to go to the bathroom, I have to go. I can get my pants back on after about 5 tries, you know. So I can do it. I can't do that anymore. So I just have to deal with it other ways. But I just wanted to say a special thank you to you, Jeff, Mike, Joe, for coming in. There's a lot of people who probably wouldn't do that. Come in the bathroom and help somebody else put their pants on. Are you kidding me? But those guys never asked a question, never hesitated. And I'm grateful for the help that you gave me. Finally, I need to thank my wife, Sally. She has just been She's just been a saint through a very difficult time in our life. She deals with me and all the MS stuff. I can't do the thing. I'm like the fifth wheel on a wagon at home. I can't even put a light bulb in because I can't reach the dang thing. All the stuff I used to be able to do, you take for granted, she's doing it. Changing the air, changing the filter on the furnace, you know, you name it, taking the hoses off at winter time and bringing them in the garage. All those little nitty gritty things that you don't even think about, she's having to do it all. And guess what? That's on top of helping me put my pants on and all the other dumb stuff that I can't do. And taking care of a 4-year-old now, which is a full-time job in itself. And guess what? Her life has been put on hold to do all that stuff. I mean, I can't thank you enough for everything you've done for me. I love you. Well, I think it's time for me to go. I can keep going to swing it because I'm not even paying attention to these minutes. But I just want to end by saying it's been an honor and a pleasure working with all of you. And thank you for all that you've done for me and all that you've done for our soldiers. Please continue to do so. Thank you.